So it's going to be 2-for-1 today. You're going to get 2 Transformer Podcast Patreon listener questions. Once again, if you want to be part of the Transformer Slag Patreon, be part of the Patreon, help support the podcast, and let us know that we're doing a half-decent job in the daily news of Transformers. Patreon.com/Protoman. Check the pinned comment and check the description below if you need to. So what does that get you, really, if you join the Patreon? Get your name in the end credit scroll at the end of every segment moving forward. You get to join the exclusive Transformers Discord, where we have all kinds of talk. The news breaks there, lore downloads, tons of deals, tons of discussion. I love my Discord. Depending on what tier you are, you might also get something in the mail, a little gift, depending on the higher tiers. And, of course, the Patreon listener question. We have 2 today, so you as the audience get 2 to answer now. Mostly because these 2 are much shorter kind of questions, so I figured we'd lump them together and answer them as best that we can. The first one we got here comes from Cringe McCringle, and he wants to know, hey, Protoman, recently I acquired the 2011 Botcon Stunticon box set, a holy grail of mine, along with these Auto Trooper Army Builder figures. Now I'm looking to get Toxitron, Sideswipe, and Fistatron, aka the Iron Fist figure. With that said, all this Botcon figure hunting has left me wondering, what are your favorite figures from Botcon's history? And how would you recommend I go about getting them from the ones I don't have? Thank you everything that you do for the fandom. Well, thank you, Cringe McCringle. So I'll answer the last part first. When it comes to getting a lot of Botcon exclusives, unfortunately, while eBay is probably the easiest answer, it's probably also the most overpriced compared to what they're actually worth. A lot of people that went to Botcon and made that investment and bought those exclusives, I hate to say it, but a lot of them really want to make their money back and then some. And when I mean make their money back, I'm not talking about just paying $75 for the figure and then trying to get that $75 back. I'm talking about their flights, their hotels, the Primus package, the entry to the con, the food, the whole weekend. So some of the numbers are crazy. And I know for a fact most of those people that are selling them, because I just did a quick look just for the fun of it, it's the individuals who are at the show also. So really the best way to go about it, and I know it sounds kind of crazy, is going to other conventions, other Transformer related conventions, whether it be TFCon or BotCon when they start doing those up again, because I find that sometimes the best past BotCon exclusive purchases I've ever done personally came from in person at these shows. More specifically, the BotCon ones themselves. Less so the TFCon ones. That's more third-party leaning and everything. But at the BotCon ones specifically, I guarantee that when BC Productions with Brett and the whole crew, when they start BotCon up again in like 2022, 2023, it probably will be the best place to go looking for that kind of stuff. But the flip side of it is, if you're going to go fly all the way there and spend the hotel and the gas or whatever, you might as well just pay the overpriced numbers on eBay. But those are really the only two sources. I mean, I could also say, try to find a deal maybe on the forums and stuff like that. But those are few and far between, because usually those really good prices usually get snatched up, unless something that you're looking for is one of the more unpopular Botcon exclusives. Now, going into what are some of my favorites, I don't want to count anything that I worked on, so 2016 as a whole is off the plate, and I'll just leave out your 2011 set, because all of those are fantastic, by the way. The 2011 set, if you asked me what was my favorite year of BotCon ever, it's 2011. Not just because how great the set was, but just everything as a whole. It was in Pasadena, which in my opinion is the best location for BotCon ever. It was just such a great year in terms of the vibe. We had all kinds of cool stuff going on there. We had the great Hall of Fame, ceremony where we got to see a chunk of Dark of the Moon at the time. The box set, like I said, was incredible. The dealer room was awesome. The location was awesome. The surrounding area, the cheapness of food was awesome. Like, everything just linked up. So 2011 will always be my favorite year for BotCon, including those figures. Those figures were fantastic. I mean, animated toys always knock it out of the park. But outside of that and the 2016 year, I have a few. I kind of separate them in the fun publication era ones, which are 2005 to 2016, and the pre-fun publication ones, which are 2004-ish, 2003 to the old 1994. From that fun pub era, I really love the Oil Master. I always tell anyone, if you don't have that mold, try to go out of your way to get it, because that'll never be something that'll be repainted or retooled in the future. Those two releases, pretty much the Oil Master version and the Optimus Prime version, which is that Pretender Shell Ape, you're never going to see that thing ever again. So if you could get it, get it. It's a fun mold. It's huge. It's a huge Pretender Shell. Has a lot going on, and sometimes I can't even decide which I like more, the Oil Master version or the Optimus Prime one. Mind you, the Optimus Prime one is a club subscription item, and that's why it's not on this list today. But I really love that Oil Master one. Really cool. Great stuff. A throwback to one of the old Japanese fans back in the day, too, his name. So just a lot of cool stuff going on there. Really love it. Personal favorite. 2013 had another really good year. Anything that was like Machine Wars from that year, I really, really like, because it's just something I don't see Hasbro doing today. I mean, that's kind of what like Hasbro Pulse exists for now, is like, hey, you need a really obscure deep cut repaint or something. Yeah, it's going to be a Hasbro Pulse thing. But back then and during that Botcon era, Hasbro would never do that kind of stuff, and it was up to Botcon to be the platform for that. And that's where stuff like 2013's Machine Wars Mirage from a mold that I absolutely love, which is that the Formula One Classics Mirage. I love that mold. Doing it in the Machine Wars colors, which Machine Wars is this super tiny Transformer line that I absolutely love. Just adds to it. And not to mention, we still to this day, probably the best Strika figure from that year, from the 2013 Strika. Until we get a better Strika figure, we haven't gotten it yet, but until we do, that's the best Strika figure, and that's why I stand by that one. And it's been crazy when you think about it. It's been 8 years since that figure has come out, and we still haven't gotten anything even close to as good as that. Cyberverse did like a Strika figure, they did Alpha Strika, and it was a little tiny turbo changer. It was completely orange, and it was very disappointing. So hopefully in the future we'll get a better Strika. But as it stands right now, you want your best Strika figure, even though it's a deluxe class and it uses that Warpath mold from the Generations era, it's still that one. 2013 Machine Wars, and I think it's fantastic. I love the new head sculpt on it. It just works. I don't know why, it just works. 2008 is a no-brainer. You know, that's the Shattered Glass year. Had a really good time with all my crew that year. I have a lot of good memories of that 2008 year, because that's also when I first like really got to hang out with Aaron Archer and got to know him and stuff, and just a lot of good memories. But also that was the year that we got like Shattered Glass Rodimus, which is still a high ticket item to this day. And a lot of those Shattered Glass molds, they still hold up, even though we're getting modern interpretations of them today. And obviously the prices now for a lot of those Shattered Glass ones are starting to go down. I did a Transformers Finance segment about that not too long ago, about what's going on with Blur. But I mean, they're still great. I mean, I love that Megatron one. The Jazz is pretty cool using that Cybertron mold. And again, going back to that Hot Rod, just spectacular. I'm just turning my head looking at some of them, and I love them. I love 2008. That was a great, fun year that still to this day reverberates within the Transformers brand because of how cool it was. Probably outside of the 2011 demand is probably the second most in-demand set is the 2008 one. But again, you know, as time progresses, those numbers will start to even out because of better versions and stuff like that. In the pre-Fun Pub era of stuff, there's a few. Again, I have a soft spot for 2001. It was my first Botcon, and I picked up RC, and I love that, you know, Transmetal 2 Black Arachnia RC repaint. Really fun mold. Probably we're going to see a modern version of that at some point in our lifetime. So, but as it stands right now, I absolutely love it. The box was cool too. You know, a lot of things going on there. There's a lot of other like really good figures from that era, but I really put all the weight on the 1996 Onyx Primal. that black repaint of Bad Optimus, because I feel that when that first one came out, it really set the tone for what Botcon was going to be from that point on. Because in 1994, we got one of the G2 members, technically an unreleased G2 figure as a Botcon exclusive. It's like, hey, here's G2 Breakdown. Yeah, we're not going to give you the other members, but here's G2 Breakdown. That was Botcon 94. And then Botcon 95 was with the Raksha year, as I call it. You know, it's like, oh, let's take one of those spy changers and make it a female character. Let's give you guys a female character. And that is that. And that's how we ended up with Night Racer. So those were like the first two that kind of started Botcon, but then 1996's Onyx Primal really gave us a strong indication of what we would be getting in the future, which is these original characters with interesting repaints that maybe we would never see in retail. And that would continue on and on, really, with that Onyx Primal and the Evil Black repaints. And I love that. I love that Onyx Primal. To me, I always called it like the Batman Onyx Primal, because it had that look to it. And I want to hope that one day in the future, if ever we get a Bat Primal toy ever again, that we'll see that Onyx Primal's colors being done in it. And that's just a few of them. I mean, I could go on and on. There's so many great ones. I literally have almost every Botcon exclusive, only missing just a few of them. And geez. Anything I wanted, definitely, I probably went out of my way to get, for sure. But those are just some of them. Again, I don't want to bring up 2016, because that was a year I worked on stuff, and I have a few personal favorites. I'll just say it. I love that Tarantulas. Oh, I love that Tarantulas one. That was so fun. But I hope that answers that more or less. Those are some really good ones if you're interested to get. I think that out of all the ones that I mentioned, the one that I would go out of my way to get in terms of like the increasing value might be an issue in the future is the Oil Master mold, because that'll never see the light of day ever again. And the least probably to go out of your way, even though I was praising it so much, is the Striker, because while it's an incredible thing now, I get a feeling at one point we're going to get something better later on. I just know it. I just know it. Sooner or later, the Alpha Striker trademark will come up again. They'll do something with it, and we'll finally get our better big babe Autobot or female Decepticon, however they're going to want to depict her in whatever fiction, and that'll be that. Second question we got here on the podcast for the Patreon listener question comes from Zeta Prime, one of our new patron members, and he goes, Proto Man, I have a question. Long story short, I've been going to school for film, and I was thinking about making a Transformers fan film. Do you know about any of the copyright issues that could come up when making a fan film, or would Hasbro be more supportive of that notion? Hope all is well, till all are one. Well, thanks again for the listener question. Now, when it comes to fan films, it really depends how you're going to go about it. If you're going to just do something that's a parody thing that's just going to be on YouTube, you got nothing to worry about. Heck, if that thing even cracks, like huge numbers and you're able to monetize it on YouTube, again, they're not going to give you trouble. But if it's something that's going to be more on an official capacity to be shown in film festivals or to even be on the big screen, then of course it's going to be something where Hasbro and their whole legal department is going to get involved. I'm reminded of back in, I want to say it was 2015, one of the old Botcon fandom crew back in the day, David Nagy specifically, good old Toy Hell, as his website used to be called. He was working on a documentary about the Transformer fandom and how it's changed throughout the years, called Transform Me. And I remember he even brought it on Indiegogo at one point, and it didn't get funded. And he then contacted Hasbro and asked if they would help to get involved, I think. And long story short, I think he just got their blessing. And at the end of the day, he just did this documentary. It was shown at some festivals in the West Coast in California. And then I believe he showed it at TFCon USA 2015 or 14. I didn't catch it. I was so busy that weekend. But I believe it was shown one of those 2 years. And it again, it really has to do with intention and if you're making money from it. That's kind of the short answer of it, because there's only so much you could get away with when you do fan films before certain companies get involved. When it's done through parody, or when it's done as kind of an homage, or you're just doing some small time thing, that's one thing. But look, there's so many stop motion Transformer stuff on the internet, just on YouTube alone. And they exist independent of Hasbro's meddling, and those individuals who do those stop motion, well, they make their monetization from their YouTube revenue. So there clearly is a gray area that could exist, but it really has to do with more intention. I think I would need more information on what you're trying to do in terms of, and I'm using air quotes here, a fan film, before we could kind of talk about if there'd be copyright issues or something. Because there's so many people that have already kind of done stuff like that, and Hasbro doesn't get involved because of how it's presented and how the platform that it's used for. So that's also kind of why, like, I wanted to lump this in with the other one, because it's one that I can't properly answer until there's really a better idea of what you're trying to do. And I'm pretty sure you won't be able to answer that until you're long done film school, and then you have a better grasp of what's going to be your budget, what's going to be your goal, what's your script, what's your actors and everything. There has to be a game plan here, and then we'll take it from there pretty much. But like I said, there was people in the fandom that went that kind of route, where they're like, I want to do a documentary, and I really, they had Peter Cullen in it, and they had interviews with a whole bunch of other people, and it was this huge thing which had the Transformer name on it. It was Transform Me, the Transformer documentary, and Hasbro gave their blessing. So I think it's something that when that time comes, the first step is to contact Hasbro through their PR department or whatever and go, hey, I'm trying to do something. What's your take on that? And then you take it from there. But I hope that answers that question too, Zeta Prime, and I hope that answers both your questions here. And again, if you want to be part of the Transformer podcast and ask a question like these guys, or just want to help support the podcast, come join the Discord hangout and let us know that we're doing a decent job. Again, patreon.com/Protoman. Check the pinned comment or the description below, and rock out with the robots.